Welcome to another episode of the brand called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very senior professional with a deep understanding of AI from Denver, USA, Kate Marshall. Kate, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Kate is the founder of a consultancy focused on AI adoption, training, and governance. She's the fractional CAIO, and she's an author of a book titled AI at Work. And we're going to be talking about her book today. So, Kate, before we come to your book, a few questions for you.
Yeah.
You've spent over 20 years in cybersecurity training and project management. What were the defining moments that shaped your approach to teaching technology adoption?
Yeah, thank you. So, with this emerging technology, one of the things that we have seen is just how sticky and how challenging the adoption process is.
Mhm.
And that's the same thing in cybersecurity and cybersecurity training.
Right.
So, in my past world, I focused on taking really technical topics and making them understandable for the normal consumer that had to pay for the training, and then they would bring their technical groups in. And it really translated well to what's happening in AI in this
Mhm.
era right now of it just when you look at terminals and command lines and trying to get a sense of how these LLMs work, it's it's not as hard as it looks once you get in there. It's just getting people, to jump in and try it and play.
Mm. Amazing. And what patterns have you noticed uh, which in professionals who are struggling with new technology? And how
Yeah.
did these insights influence your work in AI adoption?
Yeah. Awesome question on that one. I think the biggest thing that I am still seeing as a struggle, as an issue, is time. People having the time and space to learn these tools, and because they're evolving so quickly. Claude alone has come up with, I think, 20 changes to their platform just in the past 6 weeks. And so, as soon as you learn something, as soon as you build something, it's changed, it's bigger, better, faster, which is a good thing,
Mm.
but it's really overwhelming.
Mm.
And so that's what I see as the most challenging thing. And the people and the organizations that actually create time and space for people to learn these new technologies, they're the ones that are really seeing the transformation in their people.
Mm. Very interesting. And what prompted you to start the Gray? And what gap were you trying to solve in the way organizations approach AI?
Yeah. We are giving people keys to a car and we're not teaching them how to drive.
Correct.
And that's really the biggest challenge that I continue to see. And that's why I started The Gray. We were giving access to different tools, different large language models, and there were a lot of training classes on this is what it is, this is how the car works.
Mm.
This is the back end of the engine, and that's not really helpful to especially your non-technical professionals that
Mm.
are just trying to learn how to use them in their daily work.
Mm.
And so, what I started doing back when I was, at the cybersecurity training organization was really helping people learn how to drive, not how the car works, but how
Yeah.
to drive and understand how to implement these things in their real work.
Mm.
Oh,
Very.
and
Yeah.
there's a massive need at this point. I don't know anybody, myself included, who, doesn't need help learning how to optimize and how to integrate these tools into work.
Absolutely. And there is a huge need indeed all over the world.
Yeah.
Okay, let's come to your book, AI at Work.
Yeah.
You say the gap between I should be using AI and I am using AI keeps growing. Why do so many professionals remain stuck in that gap?
There's a couple of reasons.
Mhm.
And one of the bigger ones is people don't really know what's safe versus what's allowed versus what's not allowed.
Mm.
So organizations are struggling to communicate
Mm.
what they want to see from their people.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this from a corporate, professional, organizational lens right now.
Mm,
And so there's not a great communication path on these are the tools that you can use. These are how you can use them. Here's your AI policy. We have an AI manifesto. It's really muddy right now because organizations, they're figuring it out for themselves right now too.
mm,
And so I think that is the biggest gap that I see. And then I also see a lot of organizations think, okay, we just turned on Copilot, Microsoft 365, check that box. Everybody's got access to AI right now. But I don't think that's a great representation of the scope of what you can do with these AI tools.
mm,
And so there's a lot of frustration of people saying, I really want to try Claude and I want to, have ChatGPT on my system. And their organization is saying, sorry, we've got Copilot. Go have fun, and Copilot has its uses. It is a good tool because it's deeply embedded in the Microsoft
yeah.
ecosystem, but it is not a great representation of all the AI tools that you can use at this
Mm,
point.
mm.
And so I feel like there's a lot of overwhelm and there's a lot of gap in what tools can I use? I need to stay safe. How do I, protect data? And really again, how do I figure out how to use these things?
Great response. And I was going to ask you a follow-up question on this one because I've seen this in many organizations. Leaders or leadership of the organization say, we've signed up with Claude or with ChatGPT or something else, and
Yeah.
someone else wants to use something else.
Hmm.
Now that becomes a conflict, and therefore the gap, in my personal view, seems to grow even wider because they want to use AI, but not necessarily the tool that is being, forced upon them, if I can use that term.
Sure. And to make it even more challenging, these tools are evolving so quickly. And so I have clients that are constantly chasing the greatest version of something else.
Yeah.
And so, they will deeply embed their memory and they'll turn on GPTs and chat GPT, but then the
Mm,
new shiny thing comes out in Claude and they want to switch over to that. Asking an organization to be able to chase these models,
mm,
it's too much.
yeah.
And so really it's you choose an enterprise version, you choose the best possible one for the current times and where your organization is going.
Mm,
And then unfortunately you stick with it. And
yeah.
I know that there's tough frustrations with that, with the things you want to do, but there are ways that you can still play with the latest and greatest tools, just
Mm,
not with your corporate data.
mm,
So one of the things that I especially note in the book is, look, if you are forced to be used Microsoft Copilot at work, put Claude on your system at home or put it on your phone and learn some of these other tools and
yeah.
just don't commingle data.
Mm,
Oh.
amazing. The idea that AI literacy is no longer optional is very
Mhm.
powerful. But tell me, Kate, what does true AI literacy actually look like in practice?
Yeah. It's evolving. It
Mm,
is constantly evolving. But the one thing that I will compare it to really is it's like an exoskeleton at this point. So we have evolved now from using our LLMs as like fancy Googling and just treating it like search. And now AI fluency really looks like AI plus human augmenting work, doing it together, getting the best out of both model and people,
mm,
and really turning into full orchestration at this
mm,
point.
mm,
So there's no great definition of what true AI literacy is because
yeah,
it's going to evolve week by week depending on the new features that come out.
yeah,
But it's evolved beyond just prompting, just, content creation, and it's
yeah.
really about augmenting that work and orchestration together.
Amazing. One of your key principles is you own the outcome.
Mhm.
How should professionals rethink accountability when they're working with AI?
Yeah, yeah. I am seeing people, whether it's in meetings, whether it's in their emails or their presentation, they will treat the output that comes from AI as, the gospel. And they will even have a hard time defending it or
Mm.
say, oh, that's just what the AI gave me.
Yeah.
That's not a good answer. And so, AI is the tool, AI is your thinking partner, but you are the professional and the output is always under your name.
Yeah.
You're always accountable for it. That should be full stop.
Mm.
And so we're seeing people, they're producing incredibly long emails
Yeah.
or, just automating their blogs, and they're not even really reviewing or absorbing
Mm.
the content that's created.
Mm.
And so I work with people to step back and rework it. So you're not just putting something in, getting something massive out, doing a quick skim, and then shipping it.
Mm.
It's really communicating with your LLM, using it as a thinking partner. And so that way the output is not surprising to you and you own the outcome of what the output is.
Amazing. Yeah. You also recommend choosing one LLM and sticking with it for 3 days, which I find it difficult to do myself. Uh,
Yeah.
what changes do you see when someone actually commits to that discipline? And how does one handle hallucinations of one LLM? Because I tend to ask something from one LLM and then copy paste in another and say, do a quick fact check. And more often than not, there are errors.
Sure, sure, sure. Well, right now, I've kind of evolved my thinking on this one a bit.
Mhm.
I firmly believe that you should choose an LLM, stick with it for at least a month. You need to train it on things like your tone of voice,
Yeah.
your role, the way that you like to communicate.
Mhm.
There are things that you can put into memory. Say, please don't do the M dashes. You still see that, or the if this, then that kind of context memory.
Mhm.
But what I'm recommending now at this point is you choose your LLM for work, or oftentimes that one's chosen for you.
Mhm.
And then you choose a different one for personal life, and they need to get to know you.
Mhm.
So if you are talking to somebody and they just have that generic out of the box version of ChatGPT and they're not loving what the output is, or they're saying it's not working for me, it's because it hasn't been trained on you, your
Yeah.
style, the way that you like to work, the things that you care about. And so you really have to get in, interact with it, have it
Mhm.
understand you, and then that will really help it become your superpower.
Mhm.
And the free versions are not the full representation of what an LLM can do. And
Absolutely.
so I also recommend, like, yes, pay the $20 a
Yeah.
month for a plan, because you get the latest and greatest models, you get the best features, and you have that ability to have it really understand your memory and get to train it. And now that we're seeing skills pop up, those skills that you can upload in those markdown files, it's getting that much better at really becoming your partner in
Mhm.
work.
Mhm. But someone else asked me an interesting question on this $20. They said, "Oh, I paid $20, but four of us use the same Chat GPT account." I
Oh
said, "But then
no.
how on earth are you going to train that LLM for four people?
Yeah.
What you're suggesting is everyone should have their own account."
100%.
Mm.
And there are times where I will actually turn on incognito mode, and it's just a quick little button because I'll be talking to my kids about something completely random, and I don't want the ChatGPT memory to think that I care about it. So
Mm.
so
Mm.
Godzilla, has nothing to do with my work, but my
Yeah,
kids, like to learn about all
yeah,
of the different
yeah,
things with
yeah,
Godzilla.
yeah.
But no, it's a great point on, you should absolutely not share these things if you want it to work the best way that it can
Mm.
for you.
Great
And
response.
then addressing hallucinations, because I,
Mm.
I didn't I
Yeah.
didn't address that in that
Mm.
earlier question. These models are getting better and better
Mm.
at not hallucinating.
Yeah.
But if it is a project that you need to know that it is factual, I always just ask for its sources.
Mm.
And Perplexity has been the star of that one for a long time. But now you can prompt even, Claude or Chat, or, Grok does a great job at this too, where it will actually give you the sources, so and you can look further for yourself. But still at this point, I would not just trust outputs,
Mm.
especially if they're
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. I tried this for my latest book. I was looking for multiple quotations from different scriptures,
Yeah.
and one of these LLMs gave me half a dozen of them. I copied all of them, put them on a Perplexity, and Perplexity said, "But none of these exist." I went back and I said, "These are all wrong," and they said, "Yes, you're right. They're all wrong." So
And
that is a
thank goodness you
confusion.
did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would have had to explain to my publisher where I got these ones from.
Yeah.
But Kate, back to you. You
Yeah.
strongly emphasize data safety. And what is the biggest mistake professionals make when AI tools at work are not being used well?
Yeah. So if employers don't have an enterprise system turned on for their people, or if they don't have AI policies that are clearly outlined, the easiest thing that you can do is put in PII, just that personal information from clients into an LLM where it's not set up correctly, it doesn't have
Mm,
the guardrails and the boundaries in place, and then that information can go out to the universe because we're training these models on other things. And
mm,
so one of the things that I really stress is you have to think about the data that you are feeding it and what you are giving it.
mm,
And what I am seeing now is people are doing a much better job about thinking through what they're putting into their LLM, but they're not thinking about these other tools that are more ancillary. So
mm,
a good example of that is voice dictation tools. So I use one called Whisper Flow. I use it on everything. I love it. It's done a great job increasing just my speed and my processing time, but all of that information goes up into a cloud.
yeah.
And so, unless you have something that's either enterprise version or private, that data, that customer information that I could just be speaking and not thinking about where it's going could
Mm,
be at risk.
mm,
And so it's really just being thoughtful about, look, if this gets out into the world, what's the risk associated with it?
mm.
And this is where organizations need to be really thoughtful about how they're allowing the tools to be used, what the policies are, and getting on these enterprise versions.
Very interesting. Uh, your trust, check, reject model is very practical.
Yeah.
How can someone apply this quickly in a real world situation?
Oh, I love that question. And when I talk to people about this, there's this sinking feeling of you're telling me that everything that I do has to go through this model. And our brains are great at doing this in milliseconds. And
Mhm,
so this isn't a mental habit of every time you put something into an LLM, you have to sit back and think about, what the data is and, check if it matters. This is very much a look, is this an email that is very low risk? Or is this a, project that is going to go out to a ton of coworkers? Is this something that could get us in trouble legally? So really, it is a super short 1 second, maybe 2 seconds tops,
mhm,
thought of, okay, how high risk is this? Can I easily just trust the model? How well do I know the information?
mm,
Do I need to check things like as your example that you did with the book, or completely reject it and think through the data that you have already?
mm.
But I'd say 70% of the time we're already doing this
Correct.
subconsciously anyway.
Correct. Correct. Well said.
Yeah.
You describe AI as something that should feel like a steady advantage
Yeah.
rather than a disruption. What does that future workplace look like?
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so what I do know is there will be massive disruption,
Mm,
and the future is about to get really weird as we're bringing in AI agents into the organization. And there is this whole mess of who is going to manage the agents, who is going to train the agents, who is going to partner with them on the output,
Mm,
what's going to happen when you have an agent that manages you, you
mm,
know, and as a human, what is that going to look like?
mm,
And so when I think about AI feeling like a steady advantage, it's really steps. It is steps to becoming better at your role using AI tools
mm,
and having that advantage over the organizations that aren't thinking through it, aren't doing those steps.
mm.
But there will be massive disruption, and I don't know anybody that can clearly say and clearly define what that's going to look like. It's just going to get weird. So, but
Absolutely.
that goes back to the point of the AI plus human exoskeleton. It's how quickly can you get to that point where AI is your thinking partner? It is your buddy in all things, to be able to get the best out of both you and the models, to get great work done at speed and
Mm.
scale.
Well said. I have time for two more questions for you, Kate.
Okay.
Uh, my next question is, do you believe AI will widen or reduce inequality in the workplace? And moving further, you and I are sitting in countries where we have access to a lot of AI with
Mhm.
every possible tool. Do you think this is going to widen the gap between countries?
I don't
Okay.
actually,
Mhm.
because it is now becoming more and more accessible to all countries, all people. When I think about knowledge and how, 100 years ago, knowledge it was power. It was for the elite. It was, the thing that got you ahead. Well, now everybody has this knowledge,
Mm,
and the value is going to zero. Which, on one hand, I'm really fearful for colleges and universities of what those need to evolve to look like
mm,
when it's not about the knowledge. It is about what you do with it. What are your strategies, and what do you use to do with the knowledge that you have? And I
yeah,
think that's the place that we're in. But when we're talking about inequality, my fear is for women specifically, and these non-technical professionals. We are just wired a little bit differently, and I'm categorizing here, but I think the majority, when I look at the people that are forward leaning, that they are not afraid to fail, they're experimenting, that is more on the male side. And I'm part of academies and different groups, and I'll look at the leaderboard, and it is 5% female that
mm,
are really leaning into this. And then when you also look at just the jobs and the roles that are being taken over quickly by AI. It is the admin and support. It is the data entry. It is a lot of those roles that females historically are great at. And I worry that if we're not leaning forward and training and pushing ourselves and trying and testing and failing and doing all of those things,
mm.
that is where I will see that inequality widen. Because it is that old quote of your job's not going to be replaced by AI. It's going to be replaced by people who know how to use it. Well, right now, what I'm seeing are the people that are really leaning forward to deeply understand how
Mm.
to build these agents, how to build these automations. It's more male than female, which is really
Absolutely.
unfortunate.
Very well said. Great response. And my last question for you, Kate.
Yeah.
Uh, if you had one piece of advice to everyone picking up your book, AI at Work, what would you say on how they should navigate AI today?
I think you just need to start. I think everybody knows that they should learn it at this point. I run into very few people that are just, arms crossed, not interested in incorporating it at all. But it comes back to, what are you trying to do with it? That is where a lot of people get stuck.
Mm.
And so the reason that I put the book together the way that I did is because I saw certain patterns of, okay, if you are just starting out baseline, there's a series of check boxes that will help you get, to the next level pretty quickly.
Mm.
And it is just starting and going through that. And so one of the things that I always recommend is if you have no idea where to start, or if you don't know what you could be doing, turn on the voice mode on any of your LLMs, all very easy to do.
Yeah.
Grab a favorite beverage and just talk
Mm.
and just, say, this is my role,
Mm.
or I'm starting from complete beginner, or I'm
Yeah.
thinking about this. And it's a beautiful brainstorming
Yeah.
partner.
Yeah.
Many times I'll go off on and go on walks and have just really lovely conversations with my AI tool, while I'm on a walk. And
Absolutely.
um, I think that's where you need to just start understanding how you can use it and know that we are all beginners in this.
Mm.
So the fear of I'm going to look stupid, or, I don't even know what to do, we are all feeling that at all levels.
Absolutely.
So it's
Absolutely.
really just start.
Absolutely. And on that note, Kate, I just want to say what a fascinating conversation this one has been for me, my viewers, and my listeners. You know, you gave us some very interesting thoughts about AI, and yet the message that came through so strongly and powerfully was AI is here to stay.
Mhm.
You can't duck the fact that it's going to be there as a part of our lives. And if you haven't started, get started now. Thank you for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the brand called You.